In the Vatican, thousands of faithful bid farewell to Pope Francis at St. Peter's Basilica. His body will be lying in state until the funeral on Saturday. And university professors in Argentina go on strike for 24 hours and prepare to rally against Milei's government policies. The Vice President of Venezuela, teleSUR, arrived this Wednesday in China to strengthen binational diplomatic relations with the Asian giant. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The body of Pope Francis entered St. Peter's Basilica after being carried across St. Peter's Square and is now laying in state after the liturgy of the word has ended. The procession, which lasted just under 40 minutes, saw the transfer of the body of Pope Francis from his residence in Santa Marta, passing through St. Peter's Square and concluded in St. Peter's Basilica. Cardinal Camerlengo Kevin Farrell just completed the liturgy of the word. He and others read from sections of the Bible, met with occasional responses from the congregation. Cardinals are now paying their personal respects to the late Pope as crowds filter from seats outside in St. Peter's Square. Pope Francis' body is now inside St. Peter's Basilica, where he will be laying in state until his funeral on Saturday. Meanwhile, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, thousands of faithful gathered at St. George Parish on Wednesday to celebrate the state patron's day and pay tribute to the late Pope Francis. The celebration, which began at dawn, drew people from various faiths, including Candomblé and Umbanda, who performed masses and lit candles. In addition, images of Pope Francis were also projected besides the traditional St. George images outside the parish, while a video showing his 2013 visit to Rio was presented on a screen. The devotion to St. George, who also represents Ogum in the Candomblé and Umbanda religions, is strong in the city as worshippers believe it gives them strength and protection against all evil. University professors in Argentina go on strike for 24 hours and prepare to rally against Milei's government policies. This Wednesday, the Union of University Teachers explains that they will mobilize towards Congress together with the retirees' protest as a measure of force against the state. The union is asking authorities for a reinstatement plan to return a living wage to the workers of the sector. The organization also announced that it will promote a federal university march until the authorities listen to its demands. And also in Argentina, almost 2 million households lost subsidies on power tariffs during the last 9 months after the implementation of Javier Milei's cutback plan. In this regard, and according to the agreement between the Monetary Fund and the Milei administration, the cuts to the energy sector will be deepened and more than 3 million users will be reclassified. These users will go from middle income to high income category with the objective of adjusting expenses. In this respect, experts assure that the modification will affect millions of families who will lose 70% of support in their bills. And the Colombian government formalized on April 22nd the questionnaire of questions that will be part of the popular consultation on the labor reform that will be delivered to the Colombian Senate next May 1st for discussion and voting. A correspondent Nanto Bar with the details.
El gobierno colombiano oficializó las 12 interrogantes.
The Colombian government made official the 12 questions that will be part of the popular consultation on the labor reform that was rejected in the Colombian Congress. Vindicating workers' rights and recovering the lost legitimacy are some of the elements included in the questions that were read by the Minister of Labor.
¿Está de acuerdo con que el trabajo de día dure máximo 8 horas?
Do you agree that the workday should last a maximum of 8 hours and should be between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m.? Yes or no? Secondly, do you agree that a 100% surcharge should be paid for work on a Sunday or holiday rest day? Yes or no? Thirdly, do you agree that micro, small and medium productive enterprises, preferably associative, should receive preferential rates and incentives for their productive projects? Yes or no?
Tasas preferenciales e incentivos para sus proyectos productivos.
El ministro del Interior, que también acudió a este anuncio,
The Minister of the Interior, who also attended this announcement, recalled the motivations that drove the first president of Colombia to seek solutions to the legislative blockage that prevented the advancement and discussion of transcendental reforms that were part of the political project with which Gustavo Petro was elected.
Todo empieza porque unas personas que no tenían.
It all starts because some people who did not have to sign the report signed in denying the debate, as I had never seen before in the Congress of the Republic.
Ese día el presidente de la República decide.
That day, the President of the Republic decides to go to the people to make a consultation on the labor reform. There is a sentence.
Hay una sentencia, la 180 del.
The number 180 of the year 94 of the Constitutional Court that says that when there is a conflict between the legislature and the executive, it is settled by a consultation.
Y el Ejecutivo dirime una consulta.
ahora serán los legisladores que componen el Senado.
Now it will be the legislators composing the Senate who will have to determine in plenary in a maximum of 30 days their endorsement regarding the questions formulated. For their approval, 55 votes are required for a total of 108 senators, and the consultation can be carried out.
We hope that the Senate does not interfere in this popular consultation. Once the Senate approves within the next 4 months, the registry has to set a date to hold the elections, and people have to vote yes or no to each of the 12 questions. The votes are counted individually, question by question.
Hoy la consulta popular es un mandato del pueblo.
Today, the popular consultation is a mandate of the people. Therefore, the Senate of the Republic has to comply with the popular mandate as it is stated in the political constitution of Colombia. A referendum is the result of a popular mandate. Therefore, what it has to do is to give it the necessary procedures so that these questions are formalized and carried out.
Se garantice la participación.
El presidente colombiano anunció que el próximo
The Colombian president announced that on May 1st, he himself will submit the questionnaire of the popular consultation on labor reform to the presidency of the Senate, so that it may begin its discussion and processing.
Hernán Darío Tobar Gaitán, teleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. And we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, arrived this Wednesday in China to strengthen binational diplomatic relations with the Asian giant. Rodriguez was received at the Beijing airport by a delegation headed by Deputy Director of the Department of Latin American and Caribbean of the Chinese Foreign Ministry and Venezuela's ambassador to this country, Remigio Ceballos Ichazo. The official visit is made to consolidate joint policies, strengthen trade exchange, and promote achievements in various fields of growth. The Vice President is expected to meet with different authorities in economic, technological, and political areas of the Asian continent and sign new agreements within the framework of the strategic partnership signed between China and Venezuela in September 2023. And on another sharp turn of events, Donald Trump has now stated that high tariffs on goods from China would come down substantially, although they won't be zero. During a White House news conference, Trump stated that the final tariffs would not be near the current 145%, which he described as too high. The remarks come after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent declared that the high tariffs were unsustainable and that he hoped for a trade war de-escalation, as the Asian giant had countered with 125% tariffs on U.S. goods. With the new possibility of a deal on the table, the markets have shown positive signs following great uncertainty as investors worry about a slower economy and inflation.
That's true. 145% is very high, and it won't be that high. It's not going to be that high. It got up to that. We were talking about fentanyl, where, you know, various elements built it up to 145. No, it won't be anywhere near that high. It'll come down substantially, but it won't be zero. It used to be zero. We were just destroyed China.
And in the United States, San Francisco unions and community members rallied on Tuesday to protest Airbnb's lawsuit against the city as an attempt to avoid taxes. The demonstration was held outside the local courthouse during an Airbnb court hearing in which the tech company seeks a refund on about $120 million in previously paid business taxes, claiming it was overcharged by the city. In this context, unions called on Airbnb to drop the lawsuit and pay their fair share to the district. The activists claimed the city should be able to use the money set aside for business tax litigations to reduce the need for job cuts and improve services. And in the United States, a forest fire raging south of New Jersey triggered the evacuation of at least 3,000 people. The fire forced thousands of people to evacuate their place of residence following the threat of the spread of the flames in civilian areas. According to the New Jersey Fire Department, the fire has reached one of the busiest roads in the city, which is why they have closed off the neighboring municipalities. So far, the blaze has burned more than 1,000 hectares and left at least 15,000 people without power. And in Turkey, a magnitude 2 earthquake was felt in Istanbul on Wednesday. Authorities report so far 151 people injured as they try to exit buildings. The United States Geological Survey said the earthquake had a shallow depth of 10 kilometers with an epicenter some 40 kilometers southwest of Istanbul in the Sea of Marmara and was felt in several neighboring regions. It is worth highlighting that Turkey is crossed by two major fault lines and earthquakes are frequent. In this sense, let's recall that a magnitude 7.8 earthquake shook the nation on February 6, 2023, damaging hundreds of thousands of buildings and leaving more than 53,000 people dead. And moving to other topics, in Sudan, authorities report new fighting south of the city of Darfur, which left more than 350 civilians killed in the last few days. The Sudanese army neutralized at least 20 paramilitary troops during the operation carried out near Nyala. The army also blamed civilian casualties on the rapid support forces amid attempts to take control of the city, a situation that contributes to food insecurity. Thus, the authorities asked the United Nations to deliver humanitarian aid to refugee camps in the region. We now have our second and final short break coming up. We invite you to visit our Facebook page, teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final break, we're going to be right back. Welcome back. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported at least 39 civilians killed and 105 others wounded in the latest Israeli strikes in Gaza. In this regard, health authorities counted over 51,300 dead and 117,096 wounded, most of them women and children, as a result of Tel Aviv's onslaught. Authorities added that the number of victims has increased since Israel resumed its genocidal campaign on March 18th after the end of the two-month truce. And the organization Oxfam Intermon has denounced that Israel's renewed military offensive on the Gaza Strip has made the delivery of humanitarian aid impossible, paralyzing any form of assistance. According to the NGO, this situation has created a nightmare for 500,000 people who are trapped in insecure and inaccessible areas, with more than 70% of the population deprived of water, food, and essential medicines. Health authorities in Gaza confirmed the lack of resources has led to the death of 17 children from cold and 52 from starvation, reflecting the collapse of the health system and the critical shortages of medical supplies. The Israeli blockade has trucks carrying food, drinking water, fuel and medicine, while ongoing attacks have destroyed vital infrastructure, including desalination plants and health centers. In this context, the United Nations Relief and Works Office for Palestine refugees in the Middle East warned of worsening environmental and health crisis in Gaza Strip. UNRWA attributed the increase crisis that punished the Palestinian population, mostly women and children, to the waste and overcrowding caused by the bombing and the blockade imposed by the Israeli regime. The organization assured that the children population is the most vulnerable to dehydration, diarrhea, and other diseases. It also warned about the more than 37,000 cases at the end of March. The UNRWA insists on the need for an immediate ceasefire, allowing the entry of humanitarian aid and the release of hostages. And family members and colleagues of the 15 emergency responders that were killed by Gaza last month have spoken out about the attack that sparked international outrage, calling for an independent investigation. On March 23rd, an ambulance convoy departed from Han Yunis towards Rafah in southern Gaza to rescue civilians trapped under bombardment. The convoy never reached its intended destination and disappeared without a trace. Days later, 15 emergency workers were found murdered and buried in a mass grave. While Israel has stated there was no cover-up of the scene, refusing external probes, the rescue organizations demand a special investigation and alert about a clear breach of international law.
They shot them in the head, then they buried them with bulldozers. They didn't even let us see them.
We shared images of all our vehicles and uniforms through the ICRC. But that didn't spare our teams from being targeted. We are officially demanding the UN Security Council a special investigation into the cold killings of our medical workers.
The international humanitarian law guarantees the protection of civilians, including international organization personnel, as well as workers at the civil society, as long as they are not part of the conflict. These all kind of attacks are impeding the ability to continue the humanitarian mission that is dedicated primarily to alleviate the suffering of the affected population by armed conflicts, and in many cases, life-saving situations.
In Cuba, the defense of the Palestinian cause is still present with messages of hope and resistance. In Havana, the International Biennial of Fake Humor, held under the slogan "Less Fake and More News," opens the Gaza exhibition.
The fact that these images of solidarity were filmed in Havana is no coincidence. It happens that this island and Palestine have an enemy in common. The same enemy that finances the genocide and occupation of the Palestinian people is the same one that has blockaded Cuba for more than 60 years.
With the participation of design students and workers of our institute, making this mural in a public place as a voice of resistance. All the people who pass by here will be inspired by this image to learn more about the Palestinian cause and to be sensitized with one of the causes that at this moment marks the humanity.
For Cubans, the Palestinian cause is the most urgent one that humanity is experiencing. Before the eyes of the world, a genocide is taking place, an ethnic cleansing with total impunity. They are students of the Higher Institute of Industrial Design, and they paint another mural in the streets of Havana.
The idea is always to draw people's attention, and art is always good for that, to make people themselves, to ask what is going on. What is this all about, because we are talking about Palestine?
We hope this will help to communicate and raise awareness for the cause.
Solidarity is always necessary, and that the Palestinians can see that the world is with them.
In an international biennial of graphic humor, such as the one taking place in Cuba these days, Palestine, Gaza could not be missing. This collective exhibition, curated by Fadi Abu Hassan and Aristides Hernandez, is open to the public at the iconic corner of 23rd and 12th.
My work reflects the loss of the family. Sometimes the parents are not there because of the war, or the parents lose their children. Also because the massacre of the children in that territory is horrendous. and it is our way of denouncing to the world the sadness that is happening in Gaza. We are hopeful that someday this war, this massacre will end and there will be peace in the Palestinian territory.
Esto es caricatura, pero es sátira política. Digamos que el que
This is a caricature, but it is political satire. The one who thinks in caricature always thinks in the edge of the comical. Here is humor.
están tratadas con humor, pero bueno, el tema es tan duro que no necesariamente es una exposición para llegar a reírse, sino para llegar.
But the subject is so hard that it is not an exhibition to laugh, but to reflect on the issue of Gaza, Palestine violence, and the image that is here are some posters that serve to denounce what is happening with that people.
Que sirven para denunciar lo que está sucediendo con ese pueblo.
Son 60 obras de 58 artistas.
60 works by 58 artists from 30 countries. The graphic humorists of the world raise from Havana a banner of resistance and combat against war, lies, and disinformation.
Fabiola López, teleSUR, La Habana.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.